Welcome back to a special edition of Tucker Carlson. Tonight, Inside the Issues. MS-13 is menacing cities across America, but animal rights activists on the left continue to defend them rather than question their core assumptions on immigration, the policies that made MS-13 possible. Larry Elder's a radio show host in Los Angeles, where the gang was founded, and really a fixture in L.A. and very knowledgeable in the city. We're glad to have him tonight. So, Larry, you live there in a city that's really been affected not just by MS-13, but by immigration more broadly, totally reshaped by it. What's your perspective on this when you hear people say, you know, the president's being too hard on the gang?
Right. Well, for anybody who feels President Trump was harsh on MS-13 for calling them animals, ought to read the 2007 report by the left-wing Southern Poverty Leadership Conference, Leadership Center, Southern Poverty Leadership Center, I think it is. They did a report in 2007 talking about the 22,000 Latino gang members in Southern California taking their marching orders from the Mexican mafia, Tucker. They are targeting black people for execution, irrespective of whether or not they are members of gangs. The gang cops will tell you they are doing this. Literally, you walk down the street, if you're in the wrong neighborhood, you could be targeted just because you are black. Jamil Shaw II, whose father campaigned with Donald Trump, he was murdered because he happened to be wearing the wrong colors when a Latino gang member saw him and just blew him away. The kid was not a member of a gang. He was a student. He was going to college, a football student. Got mowed down because of this gang member who targeted him just because of his race. So the people that are calling Donald Trump a bigot, you're calling Donald Trump a bigot when he's going after groups that literally are targeting black people for execution.
Well, but that's exactly right. And on the East Coast, we don't have a lot of perspective on this. And I think a lot of our viewers may be shocked to know that Compton, California, which was the largest black community west of the Mississippi, is now only a tiny minority black. It's overwhelmingly Hispanic. There's been huge displacement throughout L.A. County, and there's been a lot of violence that accompanies it. Why is that not covered anywhere?
Well, you know why it's not covered, because the left-wing media doesn't want to talk about it. They are pro-illegal immigration, and if illegal immigrants displace some people in California who happen to be black, well, that's just the price of the ticket. It's an absolute outrage, and one of the reasons that the population of blacks in L.A. has declined since I've been living here is because of the displacement of blacks by Hispanics, many of whom are here illegally. It's one thing to buy property legally. It's another thing to move into a neighborhood illegally and begin to change the culture of that neighborhood, which is what's happening. A group called FAIR, Tucker, estimates that in California alone, illegal immigration, primarily the money spent for education and for medical care, costs the typical Californian $25 billion every single year in this one state alone.
That's unbelievable. I got to get your take on the resolution from the NFL to the kneeling controversy. Were you satisfied by that?
Well, I think it's a compromise. My reaction was to Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is their coach with the San Antonio, with the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. Yeah. The NBA requires the players to stand. Steve Kerr called the new NFL policy idiotic. Well, if it's idiotic, why is it that your league is requiring players to stand? I would urge Mr. Kerr, when they have their next championship game, which is on Saturday, if he really feels this way, why don't you not only talk the talk, but walk the walk, and stay on the bench during the playing of the national anthem during this playoff game, and let's see what happens to the fans at the NBA.
That's a really good. By the way, why? I mean, what is the core? I mean, I understand there are problems with the country, but it's a pretty great country. How can you support unlimited immigration? The assumption is it's such a great place, everyone wants to come here, and then attack the country. On the other hand, is if it's like the worst place ever.
It's a really good question, and the reason is because of the Donald Trump derangement syndrome. Right. They just can't stand this guy. Never mind he wants to do something about giving inner-city parents choices in education. The polls show that the average black and brown parent in the inner city wants out of the government school to which their kid is mandated to attend. Donald Trump wants to give them an option. He's called a bigot for that. He wants to do something about illegal immigration, which poses competition to jobs and puts downward pressure on people living in the inner city. Yet he's called a bigot. It blows my mind.
I know. It's domestic. Larry Elder, thank you. Great to see you tonight.
My pleasure.
Professor Brett Weinstein was driven out of Evergreen State College by a mob, a campus mob. He'll discuss the dire state of free speech on campus with us next as we continue to look inside the issues. We'll be right back.